Welcome to the Journey 2020. Coming to you coming off the weekend. I'm Charles Morris, happy to be here with you. Coming off Mother's Day weekend. Hopefully, for those out there who are still blessed to be able to spend time with grandmother, mom, auntie, sisters, all those and those that are friends who plays the role of the mother figure, that you took advantage of the time that you still have to be with that spirit, to say thank you. Nothing like breaking bread together, family come together to do what needs to be done. So I'm telling you, from a witness point of view, that a day does not go by. Because what's funny with me is that I'm around people and I hear them kind of complain a little bit about this, complain a little bit about that when it comes to moms and moms and moms. And to myself, I be sitting there going, man, I wish my mom was still around so I can have that problem. Because you don't quite put it in the proper perspective. And I didn't even think to talk about this when I first started the show, but when my mom used to always tell us, because you a kid and your mom talking to you, right? Just normal stuff. And she would say all the time, I'm not going to always be here. And you don't really hear it or understand it, but you hear it, but you really don't understand it to that degree. And then she would always say, I'm not going to always be here. I'm not going to always be here. And so over 20 years ago, I lost my mom, which is fine. But my story and the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying, please take advantage of the opportunity when your parents and people that you love are still here. Um, just last week, a friend of mine who's been taking care of mom, who was well into her 90s for the past few years, to the degree in which she really couldn't go to work, but she made the sacrifice for the last maybe 3 or 4 years to really be there as a caretaker for her 90 plus year old mom. And her mom passed away last year. And she texted me back and forth about how difficult and how hard it is. And so I just want to take this time here on the Journey 2020 to just say, please, those little things that you think are so big, they're not, they're really small. And I just want to say, take advantage of the opportunity to spend time with the people that you love, whether it's your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, your children, or whatever, because I'm a witness to say, now that I'm older, there's so many things that I wish that I had done in reference to just conversation stuff that didn't even cross my mind. Didn't realize that there was some knowledge there that I wish that I could have tapped into. Cause you're young, you know how you stupid, all this other stuff, and all that stuff doesn't come into play. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that. That was just on my heart, real quick. And so, happy belated Mother's Day to all those out there who are mothers and who are mothers who didn't give birth to babies, but you still mothers. And thank you for that. Anyway, this is Journey 2020. We've been around since 2013, and um, today is kind of like a cool day for me because I've been wanting to call him anyway because we're into the playoff season. So we're now down to the final four of the NBA. So I want to talk to him about that. And for those who are familiar with Youth Central Sports, and he's been on the show, it's been a while since he's been on the show. And so here's a guy who's out west somewhere, and we tease him about being on the strip, but we're going to have him come on, and I want to say, welcome back to the Journey 2020. It is Rory T Edwards. How you doing, brother?
Sir, I'm doing well. How are you? How are you?
Hey, hey, man, it's so good to see you, man. You're looking good. You're looking good. I
Thank
know
you.
you do
Thank
spend time here on the East Coast, even though you're out in Vegas. Um,
you. Right.
so it's been a while, and I haven't
Yes,
talked to you
sir.
in a while. So I gotta play catch up. So what's been going on in Rory T Edwards' world, man?
Wow. There's a few things. We're still trying to, not trying, excuse me. I got to eliminate that word from my vocabulary, but we're putting together still programming to work with these young, misinformed athletic families. Uh, trying to give people to understand what this journey looks like. Especially now we're talking on the journey 2020. We need to let them know what the journey looks like because
All
so
right.
many are still lost in understanding this journey. Put together a few more books. Have three more that are in the kitty of the brain that are getting ready to get put on press. So that's going to bring it to a grand total of eight, nine. I
Right.
said when I got to 10, I was going to stop, but
Okay.
I
Well,
don't
well,
know.
well,
I don't know if I'm
well,
going to stop.
let's quickly because I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. Let's
Yeah.
quickly talk about that one.
Well, that's a synergistic sort of mind mapping book, which actually helps you through all words that begin with P. So, uh, it's like starts from a problem and goes down to procrastination, but it also gives you a blueprint on how you actually navigate through your life journey with just using words P, and then it gives you a journal section where you can go in and write down different things that are pertaining to that particular word and helps you through developing that process. So
Hmm.
that's also a self-help book, which is well, I know it's good because I know the author personally, so I know it's a great book, right? But
Okay.
it's a great book for people who are trying to be who are trying to establish their blueprint to sort of find their power. How about that?
Okay. Well, let's talk about this one.
That's the first one. The first one. So you want to be a professional athlete, and that's the one that is my, I guess, claim to fame. But that's more or less again. And I did this book, and I think we talked about it before on other shows in reference to how many times I've done workshops in places. And all the kids, when you ask them the proverbial question, what do they want to be? They all say, I want to be a professional athlete. And when you ask them, what does that look like? Or how do you get there? Most of them say, I don't know. Or some of them will say, well, I'm just going to keep playing. Well, there's so many others that are playing and thinking the same way. You have to have a edge on how to get there. Now, if this book could really get you to become a professional athlete, I'd be a billionaire, right? I'd
Hmm.
be doing this interview from my 200-foot yacht.
Yacht. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The yacht. The
that
yacht.
yacht, yeah,
Yeah. Right.
that yacht.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it from the comfort of my humble abode. The thing is that it gives you at least an understanding of how to identify certain things and how to at least assess where you are in that journey, and hopefully, it gives you an opportunity to be more realistic with yourself instead of chasing the dream and then getting to the end of the road and there's nowhere to go because that's not there for you any longer.
Oh,
But it's not a dream catcher. It's not a dream killer. It's a dream catcher.
okay. And there's so much that we could talk about in that because there's just too many dynamics of the dream of becoming a professional athlete because I'm guilty of it myself for not having something beyond the dream of understanding how real the dream is.
Right.
It's a real
Right.
dream, but the
Absolutely.
reality, the reality of the dream and understanding the process is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
It
for
is.
myself, Roy did. I mean, I don't want to take away from what we read, but it's kind of leading into this right here in my own personal experience. A lot of the guys that I grew up with was great, was great, was great, but didn't have the mentorship to take them to where they need to go to put them in line, to put them to be able to walk not only through the door, but being able to walk up to the door.
Right.
The athletic
Right.
ability and the ability to play this game is there, but the process of understanding how to get there to just be able to knock on the door, that's a whole nother world. And so that's
Absolutely.
that's what you're trying to get them to understand. Yeah, you go see your son or daughter play AAU, high school, or whatever it is, even in college. You you're out there on social media, you're doing all these great things, but I'm gonna deviate for a second because I wanted to ask you this, but I'm gonna bring it in now.
Okay.
Ja, what's going on with him now? Yeah, yeah, you have to laugh because it's
Yeah.
like really, it's
Right.
like so. even when you there,
Right.
you
Right.
you're there, and now I don't even know where you start to try to like from. And I was listening to what somebody was saying this morning, some other stuff that I didn't know about the mom call. Hey Josh, somebody give me a hard time here at the mall. They come to the mall with him and his boys. Now they got lawsuits because somebody done jacked somebody up and somebody did. And I'm like,
Wow.
what the what?
Right.
And it's like, okay, so you can take brothers out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the brother. So I say that because I'm trying to process it to the degree of if I don't even know where to start with that. but
Well, let me
oh,
share
okay,
something real quick.
okay,
He's not from the hood, so right.
right.
He wasn't raised or brought up in the hood, so he's trying to perpetrate to be something that he thinks gives him street credit. Now, I'm not going to give all my secrets out because I'm trying to get to him. I have someone who's supposed to be close to him to try to get to him because you don't do something 2 weeks prior or a month prior and see the circumstances and then turn around again and do it again. But there's a bigger thing that Charles I want to share with people, right?
Okay.
You got to look at it's your circle of influence, right? So say I don't know the story about his mother calling. First and foremost, if I have a son who just signed a $200 million contract, I wouldn't call my son to come because somebody's giving me a problem at the mall, right? I call the police
Hmm.
because they're going to respond a little quicker if you say this is Miss Morant, John Morant's mother. They're probably going to come a little quicker.
Hmm.
So when you call your son, who is the face of the Memphis Grizzlies, but also has just been in the news for this type of behavior, you now bring attention to him. But there's something much bigger. He was in the car with three other brothers. The one who was filming it, right? Now, if that's your guy, why would you film that and then post it? Right? You have to look at his psychological makeup because he might be jealous of what Josh's success is, but he's in the car with him. So if you know this gentleman just had this incident, why would you post that on social media? Right?
But the part of that, Rory, is this right here. If I go and I swing the camera to you and you go, what you think go? What's the purpose of the phone and what you think gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean that's true, but I wouldn't even. What do we? What we already know that I am. Um, I'm all over the social. I'm all over social media, right?
Hmm.
People are still looking at you. Just happened a month ago, right? You in the club, showing a gun with your shirt off, all of that. I mean, so many people are trying to be something they weren't built to be. You were built to be an amazing basketball player. Now, if somebody took you, and I hope he hears it, so he can get mad or he can call me, and we can work all this out from a client patient relationship. But the thing is that if you know this is happening and you know that they've already sat down and they read you what was going to happen if this occurred again, and you're willing to sacrifice $200 million, and I'm not saying the money is the master, but $200 million can be a wonderful servant, right? And nobody's going to take a chance on you in the real world if they see that you have these type of behaviors, right?
Okay.
That you want to stay connected to some people that weren't even built to be on the same journey with you first and foremost. I'm not discrediting his people, but that's if that's who you want to hang with. I remember there was a young man who told me, and this young man I'm working with currently, he says all of the people who hung with him prior to him not making it to the NFL are now all gone, right? So prior to that, he was a draft. He was considered a draft pick. Just didn't work out for him. I guess he didn't. He didn't. His workout wasn't good enough. His conditioning wasn't good enough. Maybe he just didn't have the talent that they thought they saw in him, and he didn't make it. So now all of those people who were behind him and traveling with him and going these places with him are no longer there. And he's saying, so what do I need to do? And I said, well, you need to reevaluate who your choice of influences are, because you were going to carry them until you no longer would be able to carry them. Right? They weren't going to carry you. You were going to carry them. And so now you see how people sort of gravitate towards you, not by what they can do for you, but what you can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I think that's what really is going to have to happen in the John Morant scenario. And another thing is that his father is a big problem with this also. His father, I watched the game when they were playing the Lakers, and I mean, if my son was playing again, and I just could say this is me, and I'm just speaking for me, but don't you think you dress a little bit more age appropriate? And I'm not saying you need to be sitting up in the thing with a suit on, but what person comes? If you look around the room, the person who sits in the audience with the hood on is usually those who are trying to get some street cred. You're a grown man and you're his father, and you're sitting in the front row with a hood on. And then every time there's a call, you jump out and take 2 steps on the court. Like that's going to influence the next call. It's going to influence the next call to be called on your son, actually. But these are things that you got to observe, and you got to look at the big picture, the big picture. And they show pictures of him he went to private school, he went here, he went there. Private school is a great breeding ground for individuals whose parents want better lives for them, but they also want that thug life mentality, because they can go there and they can be that person without any sort of backlash to a degree. But now, if you take that person and put them in a real hood situation, they become the most meekest, quietest person in the room, right? Because they weren't built that way. There's certain people who are just built that way, and other people who weren't built that way. The bottom line, and I'm going to end this because I can go on this all day, but the bottom line is just be who you are born to be, right? I don't believe God makes any mistakes, right? I don't think he makes any mistakes. He gave that young man amazing talent. He works on his talent, and his talent got him into an opportunity to make $200 million. And you're going to throw it all away because you want to carry some little 25s, pistols.
Okay.
That's just my thoughts on it right now.
Okay. But well, let me give you an idea for a different book for you. Okay. All right.
Yep.
You ready?
Let's
Okay.
go.
Okay. So let me see if I can word it right. Okay. So with the idea and the concept of who we are, most of us can see $200 million. We
Mm-hmm.
can see all the zeros, right? And we
Yep.
can imagine having that and what that may mean to us in our lifestyle, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put that aside. Let's put aside the 200 millions. Let's just say, but I want to be a a a world changer to help change the lives of my family and friends, and let's just say I want to make a difference. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The 200 million is a difference maker for you and possibly your family, right? So, what's the difference maker if you want to make a difference? This is me speaking now. The difference maker is that you have to be able to sit at the table,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because it's at the table where the decisions are made on the lives of this country and the people. So the name of the book it would be called "Are You Willing to Sit at the Table?"
Right.
and to try to understand what that means. Because
Correct.
if the decision makers who make decisions on our lives, they're at the table. There's plenty of
Mm-hmm.
people who have a lot of money, but they don't make the decisions on the laws, the do's and the don'ts, the rights to buy guns, the rights to do this, that, that. So are you willing and to understand what it means to sit at the table? Because a lot of us can't
Yeah.
fathom it. A lot of us
No.
can't, don't even understand what I just said.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's something in that we probably should try to focus on the ability, and there's
Mhm.
different levels of sitting at the table.
Absolutely. And there's different levels of tables too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But understanding the concept, because we know what it is to see the zeros, but how many of us have? I mean, you've seen the 30 for 30 broke,
Yeah.
right? And so if you understand that and understand how it works, then are you willing to be able to do what needs to be done to sit at the table?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
that's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see if he gets moved back to the kiddie table. You remember Thanksgiving, the kids used to sit at one table and the adults sit at another table, right? So we're gonna see if he's gonna be able to get moved back to the kiddie table, right? And then
Okay.
we're gonna we see what happens when you start affecting those who are in decision making positions,
Mm-hmm.
overall outcome, right? And
Right.
overall income,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So eventually somebody's gonna be like, I can buy this individual off and I can continue to make money on my brand and not my brand be affected by his choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the choices that he's the only person doing that, but he has accepted a role. And even though, remember, Charles Barkley used to say, "I'm not a role model," it's just a lot of children look up to you,
Yeah, but
regardless if you want it or not.
yeah, but whether
Regardless if you want it,
no, I was going to
huh?
say whether or not Charles Barkley wanted to accept it or not, but that was not
Right.
true because
That's right.
he was and is a role model.
Correct. And
Right.
so that's the same thing that goes with him. You may not want to, uh, but if you want to do those other type of behaviors, I would just say that you let the people know who are in the car with you. Don't turn the phone on,
Mm-hmm.
or we put all the phones in one backpack and we throw it in the trunk, and we do all the wild stuff we want to. And then when will we find out what happened? It'll be on a police officer's body cam, right? And then what's going to happen? So I'm just saying, the scenario, and I hate to always try to. I don't want to be negative about this, but just think he's driving down the street, and if you look at the video, he got the gun in his left hand. It seems like, and he's going to the song, right? Now, if we driving and we happen to drive by an unmarked police officer, right? And he sees four African American young brothers in a car, and he thinks he sees a gun. He ain't even got to see a gun. It could be a cell phone. He's gonna run up on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the cases we've seen, what happened is they don't ask questions first,
Right.
right? They apply they apply force first, and then ask questions, and then we'll have members of the community coming out and say another young black man has been killed by the police um, for unwarranted it's unwarranted killing in the police in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't go all the way back to step one. You start the story at step 10.
Right. Well, see, the funny thing, Rory, I just covered that like 2 weeks ago.
Mm,
I
you see?
said the same thing because I was talking about over my period because I told you I do youth summits, right?
Yep.
And I have probably done between 4 or 5. I've probably done between 4 and 5 of those summits. Okay, and I've
Hmm.
talked with and I had them come on and talk. But the question is, when do we learn? What you just said. See, they shoot first, ask questions later.
Right.
And there's another rally, pay out some money, and then you another one. So if you think that they're gonna stop, if you keep talking about they're wrong, we already know they're wrong,
Yeah.
right? And so the only thing
Yep.
that's gonna happen is there's gonna be another rally, and somebody gonna pay out some money.
That's all. Yeah.
That's it. But
Yeah.
if you don't have the wisdom to understand That's not the way to fight that fight,
Right.
because all you doing is hyping the hype to put yourself in a situation to be shot in the back. Well, they was
Yeah.
wrong. They was wrong. They was wrong. Well, how many rallies you've had about them being wrong? How
Right.
many? So
Yep.
there's a channel that I watch on YouTube now, and I get notifications from them. And the
Mm-hmm.
notifications pop up showing the rights and wrong of law enforcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've learned and what I've been watching for the past 3 or 4 months, all these scenarios of these police stops, and the guy break it down. That's one thing. It's called Audit the Audit. That's one of them. His channel is called Audit the Audit, and he's very thorough in each state what the law is and what it's not. And he breaks it down to the degree where he shows why and how they got sued, talking about law enforcement, where the cop was wrong, where the person was wrong, and he's very thorough. And it's so common for them to get sued. They get sued all the time. And
Right.
it's like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I was just watching one this morning that popped up.
Hmm.
Uh, a ex fireman who was a fireman for 27 years was driving by. Guy got shot. He stopped by to render aid, and he ended up getting arrested.
Wow.
Right? This arrogant cop came along. I won't get into it, but he ended up getting arrested for stopping, helping the guy, and ended up having to have surgery on his shoulder because the cop jacked him up and tore something in his shoulder, and he wasn't even doing anything.
Wow.
So it's just so many scenarios, and if you think, well, I didn't do nothing wrong, what else has to happen for you to realize that has nothing to do with the scenario?
Absolutely. Right.
And so, what do you do and say, Rory? Like, no, you got to think of how to make sure that you get home. They gonna do something wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing, and you have to understand the correct way to be able to get yourself out of that situation. And sometimes being humble doesn't equate to you being soft, right? Because eventually, if you think that you can cuss them out and get away with it, you're totally wrong. And we've seen all of the particular scenarios across the country that have shown negative outcomes for you responding in the way you respond. And I mean, again, I don't want somebody to say, "Well, you trying to uh, make me soft." No, I'm not making you soft. I'm trying to get you home. I'm trying to get you home. All
So,
right. Yeah. They ain't
what does soft have to do with common sense?
right. That's what I'm saying. You
Common sense.
soft when you
What?
gonna be
No,
soft
no,
up that
no,
casket.
no, Rory. Your common sense should tell you right now. I need to be soft. That's what
Yeah.
your common
That's what
sense.
it should
Well,
say.
you know what? Right now, I need to be soft and shut up.
That's all.
This is
It's
not the place. No,
right.
but
You live to fight the battle the next day because there are so many loopholes that you can get through into that can get you some compensation for mistreatment.
right, because
Now I'm not saying
so
yeah,
many times, Rory, so many times they get sued. I was
yeah,
just watching one where a family, the mother and the daughter was stopped at like a Starbucks. They had driven all night for a graduation, and they end up jacking the mother and the daughters out of the car.
mm,
They won a lawsuit for $8 million.
you see,
8 million.
you see, wow,
You
that's
know,
crazy,
it's stupid over stupid
right,
stuff. You know,
right,
but I'm saying it's common. But okay,
yeah,
so two other books. What's the now? You say you have written two more books.
yeah. I mean, I wrote the a guide. It's a guide for like so you want to be a Division 1 college athlete. That's a guide that sort of sets you up on the academic journey from seventh grade all the way through high school. And then the other one is the numbers don't lie, people do.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah, And
Right.
then I have three, like I said, I have three more in the kitty in the brain. So I got to get to Florida, I guess, to get to Florida, sit by some ocean water and let it tap into my intellectual property and bring out all of those wonderful thoughts about what goes in those books.
Mm. So, but tell us more about the book. I mean, the last two.
Well, the guide again is like I said, all takes you through all the academic, what your academics should look like, seventh grade through 12th grade. Actually, gives you an understanding of what classes you need to take, understanding your school score. See, most people think when they say their child's a 4.0 student, that's the highest academic level that you can achieve, which is not. Based on your school's academics, HP, I mean, honors courses, AP courses, if you're taking college credits. If you were watching the news 2 weeks ago, there was a young lady who out of DC graduated with an 8.2 GPA.
What?
So based
Wait,
on the
wait a minute.
school,
Wait a minute.
yeah,
How the heck can you how can you graduate with an 8.2?
because of she had all AP courses and and honor courses, and then she was taking college credits also. So
Okay.
that moved her academic level up above the rest of her particular students. But every high school in America has a GPA ranking.
Hmm.
There's a site you can go to that shows athletes what their school's GPA ranking is.
Hmm.
So schools there's schools that have 5.0s based on their honors courses and AP courses, or there are schools that are also allowing their students to go to the local community colleges and take courses, so that ups the GPA of the school. And so you may think you're a 4.0 student at your school, but then compared to someone who's in one of those higher academic level schools, you may be an average student. And that's also how schools with the higher degree of education and athletics get some of those higher level learning athletes. Then you got to look at the criteria for what schools you're trying to go to. Do you meet the academic criteria? It has all of that particular stuff in there. It also has a checklist of what you need to do. How many times do you take the ACT, SATs? What questions to ask of a parent whose child is being recruited.
Right.
Go
But
ahead.
see,
What were you gonna say?
like for example, when we was doing youth central sports, and I don't know if you remember the scenario, but do you remember a friend of mine that we was trying to help out? She was trying to help
Yeah,
her
her
grandson
grandson. Yeah.
yeah, get into college.
Hmm.
But they started the process the senior year, so he was
Correct. Yeah.
behind the eight ball. So can you
Totally.
kind of go into the process and what needs to happen if you think um, your child or if you're the athlete that is trying to prep yourself because there's things that are in place that needs to be um, in place when you I
Yeah.
mean you just don't um, play sports, graduate, and then think about okay, well I'm going to go to college, right?
Right.
So
Right.
can you kind of
Yeah.
line it up a little bit? You kind of went into it, but can you kind of line it up a little bit how this thing's supposed to work?
Well, let's say from high school. Let's start in high school.
Right.
Freshman, you should make sure that you're taking your core curriculum courses. So you definitely got to have all the core curriculum courses that are required for you to graduate. If your school requires you to have 4 years of English, you got to take 4 years of English. There's 3 years of math. You got to make sure you have 3 years of math, but the certain math that's required in those particular years. Your history, your language, those particular classes are considered core classes. You can't take general math for 3 years and then think that you've met the mathematical requirements. That's one of them. Then you have to also take your SATs and ACTs. I usually try to instruct families to at least have their children take them 3 times. Um, when you realize that your child does have some athletic ability and has a possible chance at getting a scholarship, you definitely want to try to take those, because it's like anything. Repetition brings on consistency, and also repetition brings on your familiarity with taking those particular tests. One of the big things is that most athletes, they say, are not test takers, but How do you think you're becoming? How do you think you get on the depth chart? You have to take a test. You have to compete against somebody. So you got to learn to be able to transfer that mentality of competing on the field into competing in the academic setting also. And what we always have been labeled with as athletes is that we don't want to do the work anyway. Well, we have to do the work if we got to go to the highest level, right? The other thing is what I tell people is don't choose a school because you think that they're on TV a lot. Because the school and the top players are going to be on TV, but if you're not on that depth chart, you're on the bench, right? So nobody gets to see you. And then coming up, Charles, remember they used to say, your parents used to tell you it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I take that a step farther. I say it's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows about you.
Right.
Because if you're not doing what you want to do, or if you're not doing what you should be doing on the court or on the field of play, then nobody knows about you anyway. Uh, the other thing is that one of the other things is that no matter where you go, if you're that guy or that girl, they're gonna find you, right? If you remember the movie The Fugitive, no matter where Wesley Snipes went, he was on. He found him. No matter how many wigs he wore, they found him. So if you
Right.
that person, if you that fugitive in sports, if you that good, no matter what you do or where you are, they're gonna find
That is
you.
very
And
true.
then you should realize that make it. When I tell people getting to college, make alignments with those who can help you advance your agenda. If you don't make it in sports at the highest level. So now you have resources to fall back on that give you an opportunity to now not only become a professional in life, but to be able to provide a professional income for your future going forth. See, most people get out of sports, and what do? They come back to things they think they knew. They come back to being. And I was just looking at this statistic the other day. They said 60% of people come back and easily either become coaches or trainers, right? So you had all these admirations of becoming a professional athlete, but you didn't have admirations of becoming a professional person. You didn't take your degree right. You didn't take your degree the way you should be. Now with the NIL in place, a lot of people are trying to get money for themselves in high school and in college. But what happens when you are no longer that elite player? There's going to be individuals who no longer will consider giving you money. So you made that money for a short period of time, but what did you learn about the business that contributed to you, right? And what's the biggest degree most athletes go into? Business administration. But you can't even handle your own business of yourself. You're not even good at handling the business of being yourself. But you want to get out there and say, I got a business administration degree, and somebody brings you in. They bring you in to be a car salesman. They bring you in to be an insurance agent, things of that nature. Because for a while, your name will be synonymous with, you know, the skills that you displayed on television or in high school or in college. But eventually, everything like the waves that that you what's that? What you do jet skiing and all that? What's that? You be skiing behind the boats, yeah, all
water,
that stuff.
water,
Eventually, those waves go
water
away.
skiing.
Water skiing, yeah,
Yeah.
water skiing. See, eventually, all those waves will be gone, right? Those
Right.
waves go to the shore. When they go to the shore, they kick back. So
Right.
eventually, who you were 10, 15 years ago, in 30, 40 years, nobody will know who you are, right?
Right.
So you have to establish something that gives you the ability to be uh, professional in something in life. If you're blessed to have life, you need to be at the best possible pinnacle that you can be
Right.
in
But
life.
right now,
These
w-
allergies. Ooh.
yeah, when you and I were coming up, and well, l- let me say when I was coming up because I'm a little older than you, but
Yeah,
but
yeah. You see, I say yeah. I'm gonna give you that credit. All right.
but we didn't when we were coming up. We didn't have the avenues that they have now.
Not at
Okay,
all. Yeah.
right? No, not even close. So,
Hmm.
and there's always a story of somebody who took the long road, but they made it.
Hmm.
Now, like I think just like I don't know if you followed it, but there's a minor leaguer that came up that's been in the minor league for like 13 years. He
Oh
came up,
no, really? Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He came up like 3 or 4 weeks ago. He's been in the
Mm.
minor league for for 13 years. They showed him his first hit. that. But my point that I'm saying is there a discussion in your teaching, and even do they understand that part of it? Because um, you can go play in whatever league and go overseas. There's the USFL, there's the XFL, and all these there's the Arena League and stuff where you may not make it or be drafted, but there's other avenues that sometimes you just missed out on, and it takes a
Yeah.
while. But to
Yep.
believe in yourself, is that ever talked about?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things I let people know. But you also have to realize there's a threshold, also, right? Uh, and if you are, you know, living in a reality world, and you got to realize that there's a threshold. You can't be 42 years old thinking I still can play in the league, because you're playing with 42-year-old out of shape man, and you're just running all over them in a flag league, and now you believe that you're capable capable of excuse me, I don't know. I thought I cut this phone on, but you can't tell people that you are now NFL eligible again. You look at how nice I am out here, but you're playing with, couch potatoes. You're playing in the men's league at the YMCA or something,
Right.
and you scoring 40 points. But when somebody asks you to be on the pro am team with some guys that are a little younger in their 20s and 30s, first thing you do is pull a hamstring or something, go sit down because you realize that you haven't reached, your talent is dwindling. And that's just like everything, in life. The law of gravity wins every day. Every day we see the law of gravity winning, right?
Hmm.
And so people have to realize that those are those conversations. Understand that if you keep yourself in a particular shape, there's a small window, right? NFL is only 3 years, like they say, average career is 3 years. So if you're 3 years after the year of your first eligible date, then you have to realize that there's about 24,000 through in that time period, right?
Hmm.
That you need to realize have also had those aspirations. So, like every 3 years, that wave goes, and then there are some who are able to come back and play. But how do you keep your body in that particular shape? And then how do you keep your body in shape to get hit? Are you out there letting somebody drive a car and hit you every day so you can be able to be tackled, or what do you do? How does it feel? That's like if you heard what's the name came back when they said Mike Tyson said when he first came back. You remember his statement? He said
Hmm.
everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right?
Hmm.
So when he went away, he was knocking people out, but to come back and get hits, a whole different story because
Right.
you can train as much as you want, but it's the actual action of the day of the game that you cannot stay in shape for, right?
Hmm.
And that's what most people don't realize. And so you have to be at a point understand that there's a time period. I got to cut it up. I got to let this dream go because it's not benefiting me. It's not benefiting my family. I'm walking around here, wearing a jersey that I got in training camp, and I haven't played in 5 years, right? So take it off, put on a shirt or something, and go out there and try to get a little bit of employment or start your own business that generates some revenue for you, so you can eat and have a place to stay instead of going back sleeping on your mother's couch.
Well, that's another a book. I gotta let this dream
Yeah,
go. I gotta let this
yeah,
dream go.
yeah. That's the hard part, though. I don't think nobody will read that because they don't want to let the dream go. You know,
No, but see, I think a lot of people would read it. I
uh,
gotta let this dream go. You know.
it might be. I might put it in one of my chapters of my. I might because I got one. I got the other book that's written down. The titles are written down here, and it's funny because Vincent and I were going through 'em, and he was like, "That's what he said. No, that's a book. That ain't no workshop. That's a book." I said, "Okay, so we gonna work it out."
Yeah.
So I might have to write that down. I need another chapter in it, so I'm gonna write it 13, chapter 13, letting that dream go. Let that dream go.
Okay. Now, um, let me do a little shift because I was talking about the fact that we're down to the last four, to the final four in the NBA,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
this is just a personal. I'm going to ask you something personal. Um, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
What you think of Embiid and Harden in that seventh game? What I mean, personally, this is this is me talking personally. If Russell Westbrook is your point guard and Harden is your point guard, you ain't gonna win.
Mm.
That's just me saying it. That's just me personally. If you got Russell Westbrook as your point guard, you're not gonna win. If you got Harden as your point guard, that's just me. I'm just saying my personal opinion. Um, anyway, what you think of that meltdown of Harden and Embiid?
Uh, that's the difference in, and it's almost like Charles, the conversations what they're having about the goat, who's the goat. Generations play ball differently, right? You would have never saw anybody, and I mean, I'm just going back to our generation of players, and that's my reference. You would have never saw anybody who was in a game seven quit that soon in the game, right?
Hmm.
They just, Embiid, and you got to remember 2 games ago. You remember what's his name, number 17, he used to play for Houston also.
Oh,
When Embiid,
right, right. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I'm talking
You're
about.
right, 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 right,
You remember when Embiid for like 4 minutes there, Horford took his heart,
right,
was blocking his shots and all that, and he came up to him and you know what he said to him: "You're supposed to be the MVP, right?
right,
Start playing like the MVP, right?" He used some
right,
other explicits probably,
right,
but that's what I'm saying. You shouldn't have to tell the MVP how to be the MVP, right?
right, right,
You wouldn't have got Kobe in a situation, a seventh game like that, and Kobe would have shut down. Kobe would have told the whole team, get off the court. I got this myself.
right,
All I need is one of you guys to pass the ball into me every time. There's going to
right.
be two of us on the court. So I just think that they and you got to look at Harden's history. Harden has always been that guy who goes ghost during the playoffs, right?
He does. Well, see, like
He
for
goes ghost.
example, see, people don't remember this, but I always remember this. That first year that LeBron and Miami Heat won that first championship when they played
Yeah.
Oklahoma, he didn't show up not one of those games in that championship series.
Hmm.
Oklahoma, because I was saying like, okay, Miami um gonna have problems because between Harden and who they just got too many weapons,
Yeah.
and he didn't show up the entire series.
Right.
I mean, you would expect him to show up at least one game.
Right.
He didn't show up one game. So I'm
Right.
like, if you go back, I don't know if you remember that series.
Yeah.
He didn't
Hmm.
show up one game. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
wow. So I don't know, man. It's just I don't know. I don't know. So um to sit there and watch those guys. And the thing of it is, I don't hate on Westbrook. I just want him because when I watch him play, I love his hustle. I I I I love how hard he plays. But for me personally, he's never been a point
Hmm.
guard and he never will be. And
Right.
in crucial moments, he either gonna miss shots or he gonna throw the ball away. That's all he gonna
Yeah.
do. He gonna force it. He gonna force it. He gonna force it. He gonna force it. He gonna miss shots. He gonna throw the ball away. I don't know what Harden gonna
Absolutely.
do. And I'm not saying
Right.
it because I'm rooting against Westbrook. I'm saying it because that's what he's shown me over the years. So
Yep.
it's just mind-boggling to me that being a NBA owner, and now I'm pulling a stretch here, Rory. That if I had Westbrook on my team and say, no man, you're not gonna be my point guard, you're gonna be my off guard or whatever, wherever else I can play him, but I would never put him at point guard, never in a million years.
Yeah. Yeah,
that that's just not
absolutely.
happening. That's just not happening. So
You
what's
know,
yeah? So what's next for you? I mean, I know you say you're working on the two books, but what's next for you?
leaving this coast,
Oh,
I put
other. I
myself
mean, I,
on
I
like
mean,
a,
I mean, other than your yacht.
yeah, no, I'm leaving. I'm moving from this side of the world. I just want to be a little, I saw in the beginning of the show you were talking about, Mother's Day
Hmm.
and people, if you still have your mother, and I still have my mother, she's 88. So I just want to be a little closer to that side of the world, just so if something does happen, which we all know things are going to happen, but I don't know way my mother, as much energy she has, she gonna outlive us all. She gonna probably be 130, and I'm gonna be gone, but the thing is just to be closer. So, because coming from the West Coast, people probably don't realize it's a long flight from here, right? It's
Hmm.
6 hours just to get to New York, right?
Hmm.
6 hours, 6 hours on a plane. And so now you got to go to the airport 2 hours. That's eight. You gotta wait and all of that to get there. Then you got to get a car and then drive. And after that, you're 10 hours. You've been up 10 or 12 hours a day
Right.
before you even get to your destination. So if I'm closer on that side of the world, there's more access to me to be able to sort of sort of get in front of people to sell what I continue to do for probably a few more years, and then if not, I'm just going to be that old Kentucky Derby racehorse and walk on out the field and enjoy life. But
Yeah, just
I
grazing
just
in the
think that
grass.
just grazing in the grass, that's all, just minding my business, not bother nobody. But I think that just trying to push. If you look at the area, like Florida, you live in North Carolina, and those places, they have a lot more colleges, a lot more high schools, and there's a lot more opportunity, I think, for me to be able to share my message somewhere over in that area. I can't be too close to snow. I don't mind a little bit of snow, but I lived my whole life in snow. I'm not trying to do no more snow.
Right.
But that's next for me, I think. And I'm trying to gonna make it happen. I'm trying to make it happen before the year ends, like I was supposed to do last year, but just had to take care of some things here first and get some stuff in order. But that's it. And then the few more books, and then I have a few more things I think in the works that could possibly take off and help some individuals, hopefully with some of this knowledge, because that's what they're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to give it away. You can't take it with you.
Right. No, no,
So you got to give it to people. So I'm
this is
trying to work with that, work some young people.
something I want to ask you because you've been doing this for a while. So
Yes, sir. Mm.
yeah, so you should be able to answer this question. What is it like now? I'm going back 20 years, right? So,
Yeah.
think back 20 years.
Hmm.
20 years ago to
Right.
now, parents, parents,
Parents.
parents.
Well, I think they're young parents. I also have to give the parents a little bit of credit because it's our responsibility to give them the foundation that they continue to grow. I think a lot of 20, maybe 20, 25 years ago, parents had a little bit more structure in their life. They had a little bit more respect for people who had gone a little farther than them in this journey. I think now people are learning from the internet,
Hmm.
so they allow the TV, they allow the computers, they allow society, they allow social media, they allow all those things to raise their children, and then they get to a point where the children don't respect them, so there's no boundaries, right? And that's the only thing I see now with children. But the funny thing, Charles, I can say this, and I can say this wholeheartedly: you have to establish boundaries with these kids because they will accept them.
Hmm.
There's going to be one or two that wants to step out of line, and then you just got to send them on a little Easter egg hunt for their teeth, because you can't let them run up on you with all that nonsense. But they've been able to do it in so many places, so they'll initiate the instigation, but then they don't want to be involved in the instigation, right?
Hmm.
First thing they want to do is like you might have saw last week or 2 weeks ago when the little girl jumped on the teacher, and the teacher put some paws on her because that's what they think they can do. They think they can jump on adults and get away with it.
Right. Uh huh.
And And so that's what I think. But parents, there are some parents out there who are really looking for some direction. But then again, it's there. I always go back to I'm always gonna go back to your circle of influence. It's who you're around. It's who you're talking to. It's who you think has the messages and the information that you need to be successful, and that's who you associate with. So if you see your friends being wide open and what's that what's that thing called that site where everybody world star, if
Mm.
they want to be world star stars, then that's what you want to be, right? And you just have to find out what you want in life and how you're going to get there, and find the people who can help you to get there. And I think so many people also don't want to admit that they don't know, right?
Mm.
And that's just part of life. People want to say, I don't know. I don't know, but you don't have to tell me you don't know. I can see you don't know. Right? Because I'm gonna make you do something that's gonna show me you don't know it.
Right.
So once you do that, now that we've broken the ice, and you tell me, I've been in a school where the mother came in and cussed the teacher out, saying that you're teaching my baby wrong. And so the lady was like, they were going back and forth, and I just happened to be there, and I said, "Excuse me, just let me. Can you mind if I interject for a second?" And they both agreed. I said, "Well, ma'am, since the teacher's doing her wrong, could you show the teacher how she needs to teach math to her?" And she says, "I don't know how to do it. But all this time you've been here telling her, cussing her out, calling her all out her name, telling her she don't know what she's doing. But you come in here without the ability to help her to help your child,
Hmm.
right?"
Right.
And she was like, "Well, now, who am I?" Now,
Right.
what it goes to, well, who are you, right? Well, you allowed me to be in the conversation. I asked you, could I come in the conversation? Oh, you just sticking up for her? No, what I'm doing is what I'm doing is addressing your. I don't want to call it ignorance, but I want to address your unknowing knowledge of the process, because your child can't explain it to you and you can't explain it to your child, so you feel sort of like a small failure, right?
Hmm.
But you're not, because it's what you allowed to dictate your foundational growth and what you become to this day. So that's just that's what we got to work on. There's no more respect of wisdom. How about that? I'm gonna use that word. No more respect of wisdom.
Well, uh, you you put it as in no more respect for wisdom, and I guess it would take wisdom to understand how the process goes. You know,
Yeah,
because
that
if you
ignorance too.
right, so if you don't understand how the process goes, and you in your ignorance, it kind of
Hmm.
work hand
Hmm.
in hand, because
Yeah, yeah,
that's what's gonna surface is your ignorance. So
yeah, yeah.
you can care for your child, and you want your child to learn. But if you don't understand that there's a process and how to go about helping your child to learn, then how are you helping your child when you're sitting here criticizing the person who's trying to teach your child versus you trying to understand how can I better have this explained or how can I better teach my child?
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
that's all. And that's what's not happening.
Right. Right. So and that's the thing. And I was just talking about this recently. Actually, I was just talking about it yesterday. How I was trying to explain to somebody how I just couldn't go home and just say anything to my mom based on the fact that this was said, this was done, because if an adult spoke, I had to be quiet. And if
Absolutely.
and heaven forbid if my mother got to go deal with a teacher, because she ain't gonna come and look at the teacher like, yeah, she gonna look at me like, oh, I gotta go talk to your teacher. So what are you
Right.
doing that the teacher has to take the time out to talk with you in this classroom, and now I got to go talk to the teacher? So it
Right.
was always the adults were respected, and you had to be quiet because
Yeah.
the one thing that was known was that the people who were the adults had your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
Now, as a child, you may not have understood it. You may not even have liked the conversation. but you never interrupted, and you definitely my parents would have never taken my word over no teacher.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That wasn't even negotiable. So
And
they
most
have it
parents know their child.
right, but they're having the adult conversation. They're having
Correct.
the
Yeah.
adult conversation. I'm a child, you know, and so
Yeah.
the parents was wise enough to understand the child is going to speak from a child's point of view. The adult's going to speak from the adult's, wisdom and conversation. There's a time for me to speak when I'm asked the question. Otherwise,
Correct.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
sit there like this and hope that
That's
when
right.
the conversation is over, it's not gonna be, you know. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna take care of this when we get home.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I got you.
Right.
Thank
Versus, yeah, yeah. Like, thank you. I got this. Don't worry about it. So,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little different now. But anyway, I want you to wrap up real quick. Tell us quickly about your books and where we can find them.
Everything. All my stuff is on my website. Everything's my name, Rory T Edwards .com. Rory T Edwards.com. That's where the books are. Go to my store page. You can click on those. We also I also have advanced. I didn't talk about that, but I have advanced my uh, skill level. And so, I was talking about doing the therapy with the athletes and the family. So I've also uh, got that credential. So that's what we're
Wait a minute.
doing now too. So
Wait a
now
minute.
we're
Wait a minute.
legitimate.
Wait a minute. What does that mean? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm lost now. What what does that mean?
No, I got my credentials in that. I'm saying, okay. So I'm working. I'm working on well, it's solidified. If you see my email, you see it's changed now. I got some different letters in front of my name now. How about that? Does that
Oh,
say make sense?
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
So, but my
I
name's
mean,
still
well,
Rory
I
T.
know,
Evans.
congratulations. You know,
Yeah, thank you,
okay. Did you
thank you.
did you turn the tassel? Did you do the tassel?
I ain't doing no walking. I don't need to do all that. They know who I am. I just want to go get the certificate. That's all. And we keep it as quiet as possible. So we keep it as quiet. So when I need to bring it out, it's almost like playing spades and
Right,
people counting books, and all of a sudden
bam,
you got both jokers.
bam,
Yeah, there you go.
bam.
There you go. Right. So I got the both jokers in the deuce and ace, so I'm just holding on to it. And when
Oh,
people start to get out of hand, I drop that. So even from that perspective, just trying to get back over there doing maybe a small adjunct professor's position at one of these colleges, just to share some knowledge on um, the psychology of us. So from the sports psychology, human development psychology perspective, just helping people to navigate through that. But all the books and everything else you can find on my website. Make sure you spell my name right, RoryTEdwards.com.
right, right,
Uh, and
right,
that's what we're doing. That's how we're moving through this journey. Okay,
right.
on
Well,
the journey 2020. I used to call it Journey 2020,
I,
right?
I know, right? I know, right? Well,
Yeah.
speaking of,
Mhm.
it's been a while, and we did the show for a while, and I'm hoping that you can get in touch with Vince because, like I said, I would like to for us to bring um, Youth Central Sports back and do it at least once a month, versus every
Yeah, I'm gonna call him and see.
right. Yeah. So see if we
He,
can bring
he sometime he picks up for me.
right to see if we can bring the show back and do it once a month because there's some times where I thought that we should do like some specials, you know, the specials
Right, right. Yeah.
like when the Super Bowl was about to take place, you know, or like
Okay,
now,
right. Yeah.
uh, let's just say the NBA Finals, Major League
Right.
Baseball. I even follow hockey.
Right.
The only time I follow hockey is during the playoffs. I don't follow it during the regular season,
Yeah,
right?
yes, that's
But
too
but
that's a little
right
too
right,
boring, man.
but I do follow it during the playoffs, and so it just I think
Right.
we should do little specials here and there, and I like for an example with what Morant is going through, so that's
Yeah, so
anyway.
hopefully somebody out there listening can get to him too. I got some I got some people out there, uh, but they also the doctors that I guess he's been seeing have been people who've been approved by uh, the league or whatever. But sometimes the process is a little different for us dealing with things that some people can't truly understand, right?
Well,
And
um, I um, I want to now. I'm gonna make this a little longer than what I wanted to, but I guess I need to go ahead and say it. I just found out that one of my high school coaches from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade has been in the hospital, and the note came in on the text yesterday that his kidneys is failing, and his heart is only
mm,
working at 10%.
well,
Right, and so he's 80 some years old now, and so I tell the people that I grew up with, and from the neighborhood, that him and his sidekick, because his sidekick, they all went to college together, they coached together, and so you can't
right.
mention one without the other, because they were just like attached at the hip, and they just.
Mm-hmm.
But my point that I try to make is, him and his partner was placed at the school that we went to for a reason. God placed them there
Mm,
because it took him
yeah,
and his his sidekick to know and understand the inner city kids. Not
yep,
everyone is able to understand and deal with these inner city kids the way in that they had the passion and the love and to be able to coach them and the influence and the impact. So
right.
there's a reason why they were there. As little
Yeah,
knucklehead kids
absolutely.
growing up, we don't understand, you know, but they can talk to us in the
Mm-hmm.
language that we understood. They tolerated what they needed to tolerate, but they didn't. Okay?
Yeah,
So I've seen, like for an example, it was him, and then we had another coach, a white coach, and I've seen what happened when the white coach was trying to coach, and I don't mean it the way that it sounds, but when these two guys came in and dealt with it, none of that took place. The
right.
whole agenda, the whole attitude, the language was totally different. But
Yeah,
again, just like I was saying about the teacher, they knew what we needed and they
yeah.
understood the role that they played. And so I
Mm-hmm.
say that to say this gentleman who I had much respect for, because if I gotten older, I even have more respect because I understood the seat that they sat in and the difference they made
You're
in
right.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lives, because they coached and was the teachers for well over 25 years.
Mm,
So my hat
yes.
go out to his name is Charles Foxley. Everybody called him Fox, and I just want to say, Fox, you're in my prayers, but I know your impact that you made on so many people, and that it's one of those things that when people do what they do, it's not just that, but it lasts for generations. So you know you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. With
And
that
they
being
carry.
said, want to thank you so much. And again, hopefully we can get um, Youth Central Sports back up, and that I hope that that you get a chance to talk with Vince and tell him to give me a call.
Yeah,
And
definitely. I'm gonna try him today or text him at least.
right, right, and then um, good luck on your new adventure. And
Absolutely.
no, because I do want to see that chapter on, maybe you should just, what is it? Give up on that dream.
Letting that dream go.
Oh,
I told you I got it written down. Letting that
okay,
dream go.
okay. Let that
Yeah,
dream go.
we
All
got it.
right. This is Rory
Yeah.
T Edwards. Give us that website again.
Rory T Edwards, www.rorytedwards.com.
All
That's
right.
it.
All right.
Everything, social media, everything. You want to find me, connect with me. Everything is my name, Rory T Edwards. You pull that up, you get all social media, you get all of the speeches and YouTubes and everything. All of that stuff is all my name.
All right. Rory T Edwards is right there. Rory T Edwards. All right. Okay. As I would always say right here on the Journey 2020, where we come to you, for questions, comments, or concerns, you can always hit us up with an email, thejourney2020 at gmail.com. And as I always say, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Lord. Again, everybody, happy belated Mother's Day. Hope that you spend time with family and friends. And again, everybody, enjoy the rest of the week. I'm Charles Morris.